Hello, fantasy sports fans and DFS fans alike. My name is Paul Freese, and welcome to another edition of Freezy's Fever. Got to catch it to become a champion. And we are coming at you from the sportsfellows.com and at the sportsfellows on Twitter. I am going to get right into the games here for the NFL in Week 11. I'm going to give you my best DFS lineup picks. I'm also going to honestly give you the defenses I like and some kickers as well. So we're actually going to get into all the action, and we're going to cover all the games, but don't be surprised if a couple of them run pretty short because there's a couple games that are just not good for fantasy this week, and that's what our show's about here. We were looking for the hidden gems to help give you that value so you can get the big-time guys in your lineups this week. So I'm going to get right into it. I think the first game we got to talk about is my Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cleveland Browns this week. The Browns are 0-10, but don't sleep on the Browns. This is a good matchup. They always play the Pittsburgh Steelers tough. It's always a nitty-gritty, pounded out game. It always has been that way, and it always will be. Even in away matchups, the Steelers historically haven't done that well against the Browns. Maybe last year they did pretty well, but honestly, historically, that's how it's been, especially in the Ben Roethlisberger era. Steelers are coming off a huge loss to the Dallas Cowboys, which was really disheartening for me, but it had a lot of fantasy goodness in it, and just missed making thousands of dollars last week. Didn't put Melvin Gordon instead of Le'Veon Bell in my lineups, which shame on me. But I had a couple Le'Veon Bell lineups, but the ones did not align that I had Le'Veon Bell in. It was more the ones that had Melvin Gordon and had DeMarco Murray in it too. So it was a tough week for me overall, seeing my the way my picks fell and everything. But this week, if we're talking about the Cleveland-Pittsburgh game, we got to talk about Le'Veon Bell. He is 9,300 over on FanDuel, 9,100 over on FanDuel, excuse me. He is the premier play this week at running back. He is going to be chalk. He is definitely going to be the biggest on the play on the board. Cleveland is 32nd ranked run defense. They are just awful against the running back. Don't be fooled that, they stopped Terrence West last week. If you saw Kenneth Dixon kind of break out last game a little bit more, that's because Terrence West is just not good. And Le'Veon Bell is just such a premier talent. There's supposed to be some weather in this game. So as far as the weather goes, Le'Veon Bell can also become, not only can he become, your premier runner, which he is, he also can become, the pass catcher out of the backfield, good for about 10 targets a game usually. So it's a really good matchup for him because honestly, I'm going to send a word of caution out in this game is a lot of people are going to be on Antonio Brown from last week. And it's for good reason. Antonio Brown was very cheap last week in FanDuel, and I played him, and he delivered for me. But the whole thing about Antonio Brown is this week he doesn't have a matchup. He has a tough matchup. I want to caution everyone, and I hope everyone hears this podcast, that Joe Hayden, do not sleep on Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden is a good cornerback. He's not quite an elite cornerback yet, but he just shuts down people. He shut down Brandon Marshall in week 10, in week 8. In week 9, he shut down Des Bryant. And last week, he shut down Mike Wallace. It's completely the truth. Steve Smith was not being covered by Joe Hayden last week. That was Tramon Williams, who is just awful at covering wide receivers. And Pro Football Focus has him ranked down near the bottom, and that's who you really want to look at for that. Those cornerback matchups. Joe Hayden is just so so absolutely the uh, premier cornerback. And honestly, I would not mess with Antonio Brown this week. I mean, you might want to get him in some of your lineups just in case I'm incorrect, but I like Le'Veon Bell in this game. Ben does not play well on the road. I'm not going to the Ben well here. On the other side of the ball, though, other than Le'Veon Bell, on the other side of the ball, since there's weather, I'm not going to talk about Eli Rogers too much. But I really like Isaiah Crowell this week. The Browns have talked this week with Hugh Jackson has come out and said that honestly they're going to start running the ball more. They've gotten away from it. Crowell against the Steelers front is going to be pretty much destroying it. They've lost Cameron Hayward for the year. The Steelers have their defensive end. And honestly, they can't stop the run right now. Zeke Elliott ran for 3 touchdowns on them last week, but he was virtually untouched through the middle. And I know that's a better line and a better running back, but honestly, guys and girls, it's pretty clear that the Steelers cannot stop the run right now. I never thought I'd see the day where they couldn't stop the run and they're stopping the pass more. But they're giving it up completely on defense now. And Terrell Pryor is actually a really good play too as well. I don't like Corey Coleman in this game because Cody Kessler, whether it's Cody Kessler or Josh McCown, I'm guessing it's Cody Kessler for this game. He cannot stretch the field very well. There's going to be weather in this game. Like I said, I don't like Eli Rogers either. So you've got that factor. But Isaiah Crowell and Terrell Pryor, Terrell Pryor is going to be getting a lot of little short passes, and I think he turns it into production. And that's honestly what I like for that game. And I said, Bell is my premier running back of the week, and Crowell is my value running back of the week. He's only 6,200 on FanDuel, and if you pair him with Bell, I think you can get a pretty nice return on that. You only got to get 3 times value out of him. So, if you get 18 points, you're going to be good to go. And that's a touchdown and, 100 yards, 120 yards. And I really see you could get that out of Crowell, all-purpose yards. So that's how that goes. So I like that matchup. That's a really good fantasy game. The Buffalo-Cincinnati game is interesting because, honestly, in my season-long league, I'm playing against Tyrod Taylor this week, so he's probably going to go off. But the reasoning I really have a good feeling about this game is I am starting LaShawn McCoy this week in DFS. He is 7,500 on FanDuel. He has not been that low since last season when he had the injury, and he had an injury earlier this year, but or coming off an injury now, but he was pretty high then. 7,500 on FanDuel. I am pairing him in cash games with Le'Veon Bell. I don't care whether people are saying that they're going to go 200 cheaper and get LeGarrette Blount. Belichick is very tricky as far as who he actually, gives the nod to that, in a day and any given Sunday. So even though Blount had 3 touchdowns last week, I like LaShawn McCoy even more this week. LaShawn McCoy is the main force in that offense. Don't sleep on Tyrod Taylor, like I said, but Tyrod Taylor doesn't have the weapons around him that he will have once Watkins is back, Sammy Watkins. He does have Charles Clay, who could actually possibly give Cincinnati fits because they just let Jarrell Adams, who's a rookie for the New York Giants, catch a touchdown on them last week, his first career touchdown. So honestly, he could honestly have a huge game, but he's a sleeper and he hasn't done anything all year. So temper your expectations. If you're going to go anywhere, you got to go to the McCoy route for Buffalo side. Tyrod, yeah, he could do really well. He has a pretty good floor of 18 fantasy points in the last 5 weeks. So I like Tyrod Taylor as well. But there's some other better quarterback options that we're going to talk about here on the podcast today. So I'm going to go with, on the Cincinnati side, I really like, you could pair Andy Dalton in a stack with A.J. Green or Tyler Eifert in this one. Buffalo is middle of the pack against the pass. They are, I believe they're ranked around 15th or 16th against the pass. Honestly, against the tight end, they've only went against 3 really premier tight ends this year. And Gronkowski, they've went against Jimmy Graham and Martellus Bennett. And every one of those tight ends burnt them for at least 2 touchdowns. So, honestly, Tyler Eifert's a great play this week. And he's 6,300 on FanDuel. His price is very, very quickly rising. This is the last week you're going to be able to get him that low. He is just coming off. He played in London, had 20 points there in a game where the Washington Redskins weren't supposed to give up anything to the tight end, but he proved them wrong because he's almost like a receiver at the same time. He gives them another option out of that backfield, and definitely just completely overwhelms defenses and just stretches the field for Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is a way better quarterback when Tyler Eifert's on the field. And A.J. Green is such a good play, even with Tyler Eifert in there, that I might have a couple stacks this week with Andy Dalton, A.J. Green, and Tyler Eifert. But like I said, I have some better quarterback plays, so I'm one that likes to stack certain players with other players, but I don't always like to go to the Dalton well. But I love Tyler Eifert this week and A.J. Green. A.J. Green has 2 16-point performances in a row. And I could just see a huge game coming out of him. He had a 26-point game 3 games ago against Cleveland without Joe Hayden. I'd like to add that, without Joe Hayden. And honestly, Buffalo can be burnt pretty badly, just like they were by the Jets and burnt by Doug Baldwin for a touchdown in the week before. He just went off against New England. So I really like the Buffalo-Cincinnati game. I think that's another premier game that a lot of people are going to overlook. So the 1 o'clock games this week are pretty good for fantasy value. Last week they were a little rough. But this week it's looking really, really sharp for fantasy value. Just because, and that's the segue into the next segment here, is Tennessee at Indianapolis. Indianapolis is Lucas Oil Stadium is Andrew Luck's premier place to play. He loves playing there. He thrives there, and so does his main wide receiver, T.Y. Hilton. You could go. There's a lot of ways you can go in this, and honestly, I'm going to give you my 2 premier cash quarterbacks this week, other than my value cash quarterback, which I'm going to go with here in a minute, but are Marcus Mariota at 8,000 and 8,100 for only 100 more, because he's coming off bye, and because before the bye he didn't do much. Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck is at home. They are. I have to look at the Vegas totals again, but I believe that they are home underdogs. So honestly, I really like this spot for Andrew Luck. I think this game's gonna go into shootout mode. Mariota has had 4 touchdowns, at least 3 touchdowns in 4 straight weeks. He had 4 touchdowns last week. He went shot for shot with Aaron Rodgers and actually looked like the better quarterback in that game. So there's no way, you can sit here and tell me that that's not going to happen again with Andrew Luck. Because Andrew Luck, these 2 teams right now, Tennessee and Indianapolis, are playing for a playoff position, because whoever wins that division is the only one out of that division making it into the playoffs. Just like the AFC North with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Bengals and the Ravens. So it's a lot like that situation, and so they're going to be playing hard. And Mariota is, like I said, has been on fire. And I love the tight end play and stacking him with Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker is 6,400. He's too cheap. With no Rob Gronkowski, which we'll talk about in a little bit here, and Jimmy Graham going against Philly, he is probably the best value on the board for tight end, other than maybe Tyler Eifert at 6,300 for $100 less. But honestly, I would not sleep on Delaney Walker. He had 84 yards and a touchdown on this defense, on the Indianapolis defense in week 7 or week 8, I believe. And last time they played, and DeMarco Murray ran for 106 yards and a touchdown last time they played too. So all of the Titans are in play. Even Rashard Matthews. And honestly, Bell's price is 9,100. DeMarco Murray's is 8,500. So you could pair up Bell and Murray and go less at wide receiver. But I'm going to tell you a couple real good combinations I like, and we'll go from there because I'm not stingy, and I really think this is going to be a good week for Le'Veon Bell and DeMarco Murray. Those are my two. So DeMarco, I would rank them Le'Veon Bell, then DeMarco Murray, not just because of price, and then LaShawn McCoy. Just because they're home. Indianapolis, Murray's on the road. They're actually all on the road, all three of them. And typically you like to take, home favorites as running backs. But in this case, these are elite running backs going against very soft defenses. Like I said earlier, 32nd, 31st is Indianapolis, 32nd is Cleveland. And then you have LaShawn McCoy going against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's 24th. There's no way that we don't see production out of those three running backs. So those are all my favorites. 9,100 for Bell, 8,500 for DeMarco Murray, and what did I say? 7,500 for LaShawn McCoy. So you're looking at a really nice running back slate here. And you really don't have to go down in value if you don't want to. And I'm going to talk about why here in a little bit. But getting back into this game, I got a little bit off the beaten path here, but Indianapolis and Tennessee, it's going to be a shootout. Andrew Luck, I love Andrew Luck on the other side. Andrew Luck paired with T.Y. Hilton. You could even maybe pair him with Dante Moncrief. But honestly, T.Y. Hilton is way, 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 way better at home than pairing him with Moncrief. Moncrief might get you a touchdown and maybe 50 yards. T.Y. Hilton has the chance to get you 3 touchdowns and over 200 yards at home. And Tennessee was just ripped up by him for 133 yards and touchdown in an away game. And T.Y. Hilton does not play good in away games. This is just such a good matchup for T.Y. Hilton that I could not just even fathom. 22.8 fantasy FanDuel points in week 8 or week 7. So it's such a good matchup that I cannot see him failing. He is my number one value top wide receiver. Number one value top wide receiver. Meaning I like some other wide receivers for GPP plays better. But TY is 7,900 is a steal. That's a steal. He is a premier play this week, and don't sleep on him. He is going to have a great week. And he's healthy. They're coming off bye. Andrew Luck's getting as healthy. They talk about this shoulder every week. It hasn't affected him yet. I don't see it affecting him. So, we're going to go with that as far as that goes. So that is what I love for Tennessee and Indianapolis. That's my favorite game of the week. Other than being a Steelers fan, obviously, I'm biased there. I want to watch them go against Cleveland. That's my favorite, like, actual game. My favorite fantasy game, Tennessee, Indianapolis. That's going to be a shootout. Arizona at Minnesota, the 1 o'clock game. Not much to talk about here. Arizona, you could play David Johnson. David Johnson still got 22 points last week, even though he only ran for about 50 yards on San Francisco's defense. But he had 46 yards out of the backfield for receiving, had 2 touchdowns. So David Johnson's going to get his touchdowns. I just love Le'Veon Bell and DeMarco Murray. But if you're thinking about a contrarian GPP play this week for tournaments, David Johnson's it. David Johnson is definitely a great play on the contrarian side. I don't like Larry Fitzgerald. He's going to be covered by either Xavier Rhodes, he's in concussion protocol right now, or Captain Munderland. Both of them will shut him down. Minnesota has been destroying number 1 wide receivers prospects. Jamison Crowder played out of the slot last week, so that's why he did well against them. And honestly, the Vikings defense, I'm going against them in season long, and I'm scared because I have the Cardinals defense, and Carson Palmer just likes to throw the ball for interceptions this year, and I'm a little scared. Not gonna lie, I'm a little scared. And honestly, I think that Minnesota is a sneaky defense at 4,500. And, that's where I'm going with that. Minnesota side of the ball, I don't like anyone other than... No, I don't like anyone, to be honest with you. I think this is going to be a defensive game. And Sam Bradford likes to throw picks as well. So hopefully my Arizona Cardinals defense can overcome the Vikings. And that's it for that game, honestly. A sleeper pick that Patrick Peterson's going to be covering Stephon Diggs, but I think Stephon Diggs could still have about 10 catches, maybe 100 yards, possibly a touchdown. Peterson prevents a lot, though, and he is a sleeper because he just won against Washington last week. It was a stingy defense in the secondary and just destroyed them. Had over 22 fantasy points, like 13 catches for over 122 yards. He was just destructive. So Stephon Diggs is a good sleeper and maybe a good GPP play because no one's going to be on him, even though he had a huge week last week. Jacksonville, Detroit is another game that's it's odd, but it's intriguing to me. Jacksonville is going on the road. They're road underdogs as well. People were talking about Blake Bortles and Allen Robinson being a thing again. Guys and girls, remember Darius Slay. Darius Slay is a top corner in the NFL. He is healthy again. He will destroy Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson has no chance. That's all I'm going to say about Allen Robinson and Darius Slay. Because honestly, if you play Allen Robinson this week, it's just not the smartest play. So we'll go with that. As far as if you're not going to play Allen Robinson, though, which I would not, I'm going to caution again. Marquise Lee and Allen Hurns are decent plays against Detroit's other cornerbacks. Quandre Diggs is absolutely awful at covering secondary wide receivers. So Allen Hurns and Marquise Lee are both in play. And let's not forget, Detroit is absolutely horrible against the tight end. Even though they had a bye week, they're still ranked 30th against the tight end. And Julius Thomas caught a touchdown in each week he's played with Blake Bortles. So honestly, I think he's a sneaky GPP play. I would not do it in cash, but in GPP, I like Julius Thomas. I don't think I'll have any or a lot of him because there's other value. But honestly, if you need space and want to go to Julius Thomas, he is only, I'm going to get you, I told you I don't have, well, he's 5,900. So he is not actually of good value at all. And honestly, that price is way too high for me. and I'll be fading Julius Thomas. Just telling you right now. Detroit side of the ball. Marvin Jones is against Jalen Ramsey. I want nothing to do with it. Jalen Ramsey is definitely becoming an elite cornerback. It's his first year, and he's shutting down number one wide receivers. Jones has not scored a touchdown since week 6. He is not a good play. I wrote him in my sit-em column this week. And that leaves the door open for Golden Tate and Theo Riddick. Theo Riddick theoretically is a good play against the Jacksonville run defense. But honestly, I'm just gonna avoid this game, and I'm going to other games because there's so much fantasy value, like I've been telling you, that you're going to see a lot of like really, really high up DFS players playing Theo Riddick. And Theo Riddick won Eric Crane $1 million a couple weeks ago. So, he may play him again. But honestly, it's such a tough. It's so tough because there's so much value, and I like these other games. So getting to the last 3 of the 1 o'clock games, there's Chicago at New York. Jay Cutler became Jay Cutler again last week, threw 2 picks in 2 minutes. Looked pretty terrible. Lost me over $200 last week. I don't like Jay Cutler as of right now. And no Alshon Jeffrey suspended for 4 games for substance abuse. I like the fact that they're going into New York, and New York is just spent $199 million in the offseason to ramp up their defense, and Janoris Jenkins is shutting down wide receivers. Cameron Meredith has no chance this week. And Eddie Royal is a secondary wide receiver. Could be a GPP play, but I'm not going there, and I would caution you not to go there as well. I just think that Chicago completely gets shut down in this game, and that this completely becomes the actual Odell Beckham week to own Odell Beckham, because people are going to look at it this way, and I was too before listening to the Football Guys Power Grid podcast and YouTube podcast, and honestly, I got to say that Odell Beckham is a huge, really nice GPP player this week. People aren't going to be on him because he hasn't had he's 9,000 and he hasn't had the best weeks. People are going to be on Brown at 8,900. And I really like him this week. People are just sleeping on him. And a sneaky stack might be Eli Manning paired with Odell Beckham, because people are just sleeping on Eli as well. And Eli's only 7,700 on FanDuel. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. This is the time of year, people, that Eli thrives. And he throws a couple picks every game. Whatever. It's minus 1 point on FanDuel. It's not going to kill you. So, you got that. But Odell Beckham is just going to eat against Tracy Porter. Tracy Porter appeared to shut down Mike Evans last week, but if you go back and watch that game, you're going to see that Mike Evans just really wasn't targeted by Jameis Winston in that game. Like, he had 5 targets compared to the 11 targets he's had in every week since week 2. And I think this is a great spot for Odell Beckham, and people are going to pay up for running backs, and I think you could fit value running back like Isaiah Crowell with Bell and put in Odell Beckham and pair Ty or Moncrief. I think this is sneaky. It's definitely sneaky, and there's another guy I really like too for wide receivers, and he's really inexpensive because of the Monday night game last week. So, or Sunday night game happening last week. So let's dive into, like I said, New York Giants defense and Odell Beckham. That's a good pairing. If you want to go this way too, Robbie Gould was released by Chicago earlier this year, and now he has a revenge game against his old team. the Chicago Bears. So he may have like 40 points. I don't think that. I think it's pretty funny to think about revenge for a kicker. Revenge. Baltimore at Dallas is another 1:00 game. I think this is going to be a defensive struggle, to be honest. I don't want any part of Dak in this. Dak is 7,500 on FanDuel. Dez is 7,600, I believe. Let me look real quick here. Dez is 7,400 on FanDuel, and it's gonna lure people. It's gonna lure people in. And here's what I want to say about Dez Bryant is he will have a great week against a soft defense. His father unfortunately passed away last week. Rest in peace, Dez Bryant's father. And he had a great game against Pittsburgh, and I missed him completely as a tournament play last week. However, the thing about Dez Bryant is he'll have a great week, and the next week he'll completely bust. He did it when he versed Philly, then went to Cleveland against Hayden. Now he gets a similar Hayden-like player guarding him. Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith is no joke. Jimmy Smith will shut Dez Bryant down. I have no doubt about it. The interesting part of this game is going to be watching the Dallas line against the Baltimore front four on defense and just watching Zeke try to destroy that front four. It's going to be a brutal knockdown matchup. The Steelers are awful on run defense. Baltimore is not awful on run defense. They are going to give Zeke Elliott fits, I think, this week. And he is a good GPP play. Zeke is. But honestly, I'm staying away from him in cash games because he's anything but safe this week. And people will be all over him because how good he was last week. It's scary this week. He could completely bust. I don't think it's going to happen, but, Baltimore has been terrible in the secondary, though, other than Jimmy Smith. If you want to look at wide receiver play that's interesting, it's Cole Beasley this week. But I honestly think this has become a defensive game. Joe Flacco can't play in away games. He's like Ben Roethlisberger. They can't play in away games. They throw, a couple interceptions, but then they'll throw a long pass for a touchdown and pad their stats. So Mike Wallace is in play against this Dallas defense this week, the secondary. Like I said, though, I'm kind of fading this game. There's so much value other places that I just think that other games are better. And we're just, you're seeing as I'm talking that I'm right about this. Like there's different games that are better, and it's just that way. If it's going to be a defensive struggle, though, the kickers are definitely in play. I like Tucker at 5,000, and 5,100 is Dan Baylor. They're the most expensive kickers of the week, but I like them both. I would rather take Bailey at home than Tucker on the road. So that's just to give you an idea there. The last 1:00 game we're going to get into is Tampa Bay at Kansas City. Kansas City are always home favorites. Arrowhead's one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. But they're generating like almost zero offense. And people are talking about Alex Smith being a thing at 6,800 again. I hate it. I can't do it. Maybe pair him with Tyreek Hill. I'm scared to do it. It's just such a volatile GPP play. I think even at GPP, it's stretching it. So you might want to go Tyreek Hill by himself. I wouldn't go Travis Kelce either. The passing offense for Kansas City is just deplorable. And their defense is really playing well. Eric Berry, Marcus Peters, Justin Houston's back. They're really playing well. And now they get to go against Jameis Winston, who is interception prone, turnover prone. When he is not at home, he is very turnover prone. And if Marcus Peters matches up against Mike Evans, I want nothing to do with him. They're talking about that he's not going to match up with Mike Evans. I just saw Tracy Porter sort of kind of shut down Mike Evans. I think that Marcus Peters will just destroy him. And if he doesn't match up against Mike Evans, Mike Evans gets a better matchup. But I'm just kind of, like I said, I like Odell way better. And even though Mike Evans is 8,000, Mike Evans burnt me last week in cash, and I just can't go there again. Maybe in a GPP setting where not many people will be on him. He's probably going to have like 8% ownership, 6% probably, 6 to 8%. That's a better place to play him. So honestly, in this game, there's Evans. That's about it. The Kansas City side, you got Spencer Ware on running the ball. I like Cairo Santos for a kicker. He's 4,900 on FanDuel. He's actually probably my top kicker of the week, 4,900. And Kansas City's defense against Jameis Winston, that's pretty good. So, and I'll get into it. My top 3 defenses, I've already mentioned 2 of them, Kansas City and New York. But there's another one coming here in about, not next game, but the game after that. Nope, 2 games after that. So we're going to get into the next game. These are the 4 o'clock games we're getting into now. And Miami, LA, I want nothing to do with it. Jared Goff is going against Miami's defense at home. If Miami was at home, I would play Miami's defense hands down. But they're in LA. This could be a defensive struggle. It could be. But honestly, I don't like Jay Ajayi against LA Rams defense, and I don't like Jarvis Landry against I can't for the life of me. Tremaine Johnson, I believe, is who's going to be covering him, and honestly, he's just Landry can't play right now. And Tannehill can't play right now. With Jay Ajayi running really well, he's just completely being shut down. And I see it continuing in this game, even though I don't think Jay Ajayi is going to have over 70 yards. That's a bold call, but it's bound to happen sooner or later. And honestly, Todd Gurley's at GPP play in this one. 6,700 on FanDuel. That's the lowest price he's been. And you're not going to get him at a lower price than that, I don't believe. And against the Miami Dolphins defense, who are pretty porous on the rush, it's actually a pretty decent GPP play. But I just don't know what Goff's going to do. So I'm going to avoid this game completely. And, moving on to the next game. Here's a good one. And I'm going to talk to you about both sides of the ball. You may not like me talking about San Francisco, but New England versus San Francisco in San Francisco, Brady has to be mad about losing to Seattle Seahawks on home turf, which just doesn't happen for Brady, losing on home turf. Seattle is going to be one of the better offenses and defenses coming down the stretch here. They're 26-7 in their last couple years in their final games. And honestly, on the second half of the season, and New England is just, Brady's mad. He's going to be mad. He could be a good cash game play because no one's going to be on him. I really don't think that many people are going to be on him. 9,300. He's the most expensive quarterback on the slate. And honestly, I don't really want him. This is a matchup that fares better for LeGarrette Blount, who just scored 3 touchdowns on a tough Seattle run defense, a middle-of-the-road tough Seattle run defense, and 69 yards on them. But now he gets San Francisco, and if Brady gets up at all in this game, they're just going to run Blount. And another thing is, Blount is just such a good runner in between the tackles down by the goal line that I could see him getting another 3 touchdown game again. And he is my 4th running back in the high tier. He's 7,300. I like him. Like I said, I told you I had 4 of them. Like I said, I liked DeMarco Murray. I love Le'Veon Bell. I like DeMarco Murray. I like LaShawn McCoy. And I like Blunt. And Blunt is a great play. It's 7,300 on FanDuel. San Francisco's ranked 32nd against the run. Well, they're 32nd. So that means Indianapolis is 30th and 31st is the Cleveland Browns. So Brownies have moved up a little bit. I still think Le'Veon Bell's going to eat. So you're looking at 3 great matchups for 3 great running backs. Blunt gets to just destroy this defense. And a really cool note in this game is Julian Edelman is going back to his home turf to play in California, in San Francisco, for the first time in his career. I think Brady could just narrative street this one and throw 2 touchdowns to Edelman. But do I think that Brady's going to throw more than 3 touchdowns? No, I don't. And at 9,300, there's other value that are better. Like I said, Andrew Luck, Mariota. I'm getting to another guy I'm going to talk about too. So honestly, I love Edelman in this game. 6,100 is my top value of the week for wide receiver. I'm going to be pairing him in every one of my lineups. 100% owned by me. Just telling you right now. So you have no secrets here on the Freezy's Fever podcast. So you got Edelman, and Rob Gronkowski is going to sit in this game. It looks like he punctured his lung last game. I hope he feels better. So everyone's going to be off of him. And in cash games, Martellus Bennett's going to be chalk. He is going to be almost 60 to 70% owned in cash games. I'm just going to go with the rest of the field as well and just put him 5,200. It's too low of a price on Martellus Bennett against a terrible, terrible San Francisco defense who are ranked 25th or 26th against the pass. They're ranked worse against the run, like I said, but against the pass, they're just as bad. And people are going to sleep on that other than, if you're playing them in cash. So tournaments, though, GPPs, I would play them, but I'm not going to have them in all my lineups. Like I said, I like Eifert better. I like Delaney Walker better for tournaments. Those are the 2 tournament tight ends I like a lot. So that's it for that side of the ball. San Francisco side of the ball, you could make a case for Carlos Hyde against New England, but the problem is New England's going to be up in this one, and San Francisco only has an implied point total of 26. I don't like that. Kaepernick may be a sneaky GPP play, though. He's only 7,000, and he is a sneaky tournament play. He could at least get 20 points in this one, and you could slide a few more people in to your lineups. But honestly, like I said, I have another value guy I'm about to talk about. So without further ado, you get to my premier quarterback of the week. I love Russell Wilson. He is only 7,400 on FanDuel. People were writing him off a couple weeks ago. I said, no, don't write him off. I like Russell Wilson. Once he gets healthy, he's going to do well. And now he's just slinging the ball. He threw 2 touchdowns to Jimmy Graham in that Monday night game against Buffalo. Then he threw 3 touchdowns last week to Baldwin. I really like Russell Wilson, and I think Baldwin to Russell Wilson is my stack of the week. I'm going to have 50% Russell Wilson and probably 30-20 Andrew Luck, Mariota. I'm just sticking with that. Maybe 1%, Kaepernick, like I said. But Russell Wilson, 7,400. He's just too cheap. He's going to hit value for you against this Philly defense, who at home on paper is very good. On the road, they have given up 52 points to quarterbacks in the last 2 weeks. They're giving up quite a bit to wide receivers as well. They just do not do well on the road, and I really, really like Doug Baldwin out of the slot in this one. Jimmy Graham, not so much, but Doug Baldwin definitely paired with Russell Wilson. I love it this week. 4,900, you got to talk about CJ Procise. He is another value this week, and definitely at 4,900, he'd only have to hit 12 points to hit value. He can get you a 4x value if he gets to 18. I like CJ Procise this week. And Seattle Seahawks defense is my number one defense of the week. They are going against Carson Wentz, who, like I said, on the road struggles. And he is a rookie quarterback, and he's against the 12th man. This isn't Tyrod from a couple weeks ago. This is Carson Wentz, who throws at least 2 picks a game since week 4. I like Seattle Seahawks in this one. Philly, I'm just fading the entire side of the ball for DFS. There's no point to play them. Richard Sherman will cover Jordan Matthews just fine. Just fade Philly, go big on Seattle. So that is my advice of the week. Do that, and I think you'll have a great week. The last game, well, I'm going to talk about the Monday game a little bit since we're talking about it. But for the DFS point of view and slate, Green Bay at Washington. We all will know at 9,100 Rodgers will hit value. He's going to have to throw the ball so much in this one unless James Starks, who is a nice value at running back this week, actually gets some touchdowns for you against this porous Washington Redskins 28th run ranked defense. Their secondary has actually been really sneaky lately and has not given up a lot of points. Last week, Stephon Diggs scored 22 points on them last week, but it was more talent by Stephon Diggs. Norman wasn't really covering him, but you better believe Norman's going to be covering Jordy Nelson in this game. And I don't like Jordy Nelson at all in this game. I think that even at 7,700, which he is, I'm just not going to Jordy Nelson. 7,800 this week, actually. He went up 100. And Devontae Adams is a sneaky play at 7,600. But you could even make a case for Randall Cobb. And Randall Cobb, everyone, hold the phone. Randall Cobb has a hamstring issue, but he's 6,500. And if he plays, which I don't know if he does, and even if he does, he might just be a target out there, just to draw opposing defenses away from Devontae Adams, then he's a decent play. But he scares me. He's really volatile, and Washington hasn't been giving up that much in the secondary. They're giving up a lot on the run, not as much on the pass, which is kind of funny because in the first couple weeks it was like flip-flopped. Now it's the other way. And on the Washington side of the ball, you got to love Jordan Reed. Delaney Walker just scored a touchdown on the Packers last week, had over 82, maybe 100 yards. I think he had over 100 yards actually against them. And Jordan Reed just doesn't have 2 bad weeks in a row. He's coming off the concussion. They came off bye week, and then they played the Vikings. The Vikings aren't the best, are pretty darn good against the tight end, like I warned last week in my articles. But Jordan Reed is a really good option this week. And at his price on FanDuel is 6,900, and that's priced right above Jimmy Graham and Delaney Walker. Without Rob Gronkowski playing this week, Jordan Reed's a sneaky GPP play because I don't think a lot of people are going to be on him. And Kirk Cousins as well as a sneaky GPP play. Like I said, I wouldn't go these guys in cash. Like I said, cash tight ends, Bennett, Eifert, Walker. You could even go Eifert or Walker in that to be safe. But honestly, Jordan Reed in GPPs is a great play in tournaments. 6,900. I like him a lot this week. Kirk Cousins is a great play against this poor pass defense for the Packers. And I like this matchup a lot for him. And he came out this week and said Jamison Crowder makes him a better quarterback. I like Jamison Crowder in this game just because he said that. He's not talking about Deshaun Jackson. I know Jackson's going to be getting jealous, but they've been winning with Jamison Crowder and Vernon Davis, who's a sneaky play because he's the other tight end that's been getting a lot of looks other than Jordan Reed. And honestly, he's had like a resurgence in Washington. So this is a good game for fantasy and a game I'm going to have to stack a little bit, figure it out. So, you know, that's where I'm really looking at for that. If you're going to play the Monday night game, DeAndre Hopkins is a sneaky GPP play. Even paired with Brock Osweiler, I'm not going there. But if you pair those two together, because Oakland's 30th ranked pass defense, still giving up 300 yards a game to wide receivers. They can't cover the wide receiver position. Will Fuller, if he plays, is a good play. And on the Lamar Miller could be sneaky in that too, but because Oakland's giving up a lot on the ground and he does catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. But Latavius Murray is a really good play on the Oakland side of the ball. Houston's 28th ranked run defense, actually 27th now, ranked run defense is just giving it up. They stopped Chris Ivory last week, but Ivory only had 5 carries. And you're going to see Murray get up to 20 carries. I wrote him in my stardom column this week. I like him a lot. He just came off of a game before bye where he had 3 touchdowns against Denver. Now he gets to rest and gets to go eat again against the Texans. Because Houston's ranked, like I said, Houston's ranked like 27th against the run. And then against the pass, they're ranked in the upper like 10-9 area. And honestly, the prospect for Derek Carr does not look that great. Throwing Amari Cooper, and honestly, that's why my opponent in my season-long league sat Derek Carr and is playing Tyrod against me because he's scared. So that means I'm going to have to sit Amari Cooper now because, I'm not, I just don't feel like Amari Cooper is going to do a whole lot against, I think Quentin Demps is who's going to be covering him. So it's tough. It's a tough matchup, and it's Monday night in Mexico City. So getting to kickers real quick, Sebastian Janikowski, if you're playing that Monday night slate, is a great kicker. In altitude, he kicks over 50 yards without altitude. Now he could be kicking over 60. Gotta love Seabass this week. Like I said, Cairo Santos. And I forgot to mention Vinatieri. Vinatieri is the best kicker of all time, hands down. And now he goes against Tennessee, who just gave up last week. He gave up over 10 points to Mason Crosby on the road last week. Now Vinatieri's at home against Tennessee. I like Vinatieri a lot. Andrew Luck has problems penetrating in the red zone, so I really like him a lot this week. And, that's what I said. Like, my defenses are Seattle, the Giants, and Kansas City. Seattle's 5,200. They're the most expensive by far. But, Kansas City's 5,000. You pay up $200 for Seattle. I think you're getting a better value there at home. And as well, the Giants are at home. But they're 4,700. But Cutler could actually, it's not probable, and it's possible, but not probable. But Cutler could actually end up throwing a couple touchdowns in this. You don't know. You just can't tell. But they've been pretty poor against the tight end. So, Zach Miller might actually do pretty well against them. Not that I would play Zach Miller, but, it's a GPP play, if anything. Just letting you know. Kicker, like I said, Vinatieri. You got to go Cairo Santos, somebody like that. Any last thoughts here? Honestly, I think you got to go. My main lineup this week for cash is, and I'm just going to give it to you because I don't have any problem with you playing my lineup in cash. I like the Russell Wilson paired with Doug Baldwin, paired with T.Y. Hilton, Le'Veon Bell, LaShawn McCoy in cash with Bennett and Edelman. I think Edelman at 6,100, all he has to do is catch, get for wide receiver value to hit wide receiver value. He just needs to get 13 points, and I think Edelman does that in this one. He's a PPR monster, even in FanDuel, a half-point PPR. It's just San Francisco's so bad. I just can't say enough. I have them paired, and I have Russell Wilson paired with Doug Baldwin, paired with Seattle Seahawks defense, and it's sneaky. It's definitely it's not sneaky. It's a very good chalk play, and that's my cash game lineup for this week. I said in tournaments, like I said, you can still go Russell Wilson in tournaments, but a good tournament quarterback is actually either going to be Mariota, or Mariota is going to be highly owned. But Andrew Luck coming off a bye, I don't think he's going to be that chalky. I really think that Andrew Luck is a good tournament play paired with T.Y. Hilton. He's also a good catch play, though. So you have both of those areas that he could excel at. And honestly, other than that, I really think that I want to wish everyone good luck this week and tell everyone that I really hope everyone cashes in on these plays I've said. I really went into the analysis pretty deep for you guys and girls, and I really feel comfortable with everything I just said. T.Y. Hilton is, like I said, is my play of the week. My top, if I had to rank top wide receivers, I would say Odell Beckham at 9,000. You have to say Odell Beckham first. Then T.Y. Hilton over A.J. Green, and then A.J. Green, and then Doug Baldwin. I just love Doug Baldwin this week. And he last season he had 12 touchdowns in those last 8 games. He's going to do it again. And watching him last week against New England, even as I just watched the highlights because I didn't want to watch New England beat Seattle, but they ended up going the other way, so I missed the game. But I watched all the highlights and I did all the analysis and looked back through the game. And honestly, Doug Baldwin just looks on another level right now, and I'm keeping him paired. And I'm going to keep firing him up. So that does it for me, guys. Come to thesportsfellows.com. Look at our stardom situm. We also have other really good columns as far as Vegas odds and things like that, betting statistics and stuff like that. Thesportsfellows.com is our sponsor. We're doing really good stuff. We're starting to get into NBA as well. We're going to try to do hockey. I'm not the biggest hockey expert, but I'm pretty decent at NBA as far as my picks for DFS. So I will get into that as the NFL season wears on. I will be starting to do NBA plays for you almost every slate. I don't want you to quote me on that, but that does it for me, guys. And I will be on Twitter if you have any questions. Come to thesportsfellows.com. We are always looking for questions, and we will help you answer anything. I am out. I am Paul Freese, and I am ready to make some money this week. Let's go.